Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, khush amdeed, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen, ishpata, washmale, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to World This Morning on a very beautiful and a pleasant morning over here in Islamabad. I'm Shiza Hashmi. Like every other morning, I'm here sharing my information, knowledge, and of course, a lot of love with you guys. I hope you all are doing great as well, and I hope and pray that this day and this weekend that we're headed into is going to be great as well. You know, towards the end of the week, towards Friday, always the spirits are so lifted because we're thinking about the weekend. Of course, everyone has plans and whatnot, so I hope all of that goes great. But I request you all to please abide by all the SOPs for COVID-19 because unfortunately, the positivity ratio is so high as compared to the past 4 to 5 months. And now it is even 9 times more than it was last recorded in October as well. I'm going to talk about that in detail in the next segment probably, but just a small notice of please make sure to follow all the SOPs. And Jummah Mubarak, of course, remember me, my entire team in your prayers as well. And inshallah, whenever we, talk about the weekend and, going into the newer stuff that is going to be there in the next week, I promise you we have something so exciting for you all. But you have to stay tuned for that to find out. But to begin the show, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make it quick first of all because unfortunately I don't have my co-anchor or the anchor of our ship with us, Shazad Khan. He's a little under the weather. Pray for him as well. But let's get this started. I love talking about how empowering things are becoming for different segments of the society. It always happens, right? Maybe on the basis of gender, on the basis of age or religion or whatnot. Some segments of the society are prioritized over the other. My point being, ladies and gentlemen, for over so many decades and centuries, when we talk about women in leadership positions, it has not been that prominent as it is now. Luckily, a lot of women are, being leaders in positions or rather spheres that were not even imaginable before. For example, women in tech. This is one of our favorite themes or topics, and we love doing shows about it. We love inviting women in tech, especially to inspire the hundreds of thousands of women out there who are planning to or wishing to become someone like them. Now, the woman that I'm going to be in conversation with today happens to be, of course, the owner at Cisco. She happens to be working for the data governance and democratization of product over there. But that's not it. She has a lot of feathers in her hat. I want to talk about the challenges she might have faced if she did any, and how to get over them along with, managing and balancing all these roles. Without any further ado, she's joining us online all the way from the US, ladies and gentlemen. She is Aisha Maimun. Assalamu alaikum, Aisha. Can you hear me?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for having me. Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you for, is it nighttime or early morning over there? Thank you for waking up.
No, it's evening time here. It's about 8 p.m., so it's a good time.
Perfect. Well, first of all, I have to say I am absolutely inspired by you. I was reading your profile and everything, so definitely I love having you on the show and to talk about what you do. So to begin with, when we talk about women in technology or generally, women in leadership positions as well, do you think there has been a shift in all of this discourse lately?
Definitely. I feel like there's a lot more opportunities for women, I would say, and also more seats at the table for women to capitalize on this. So definitely a good time for women to be coming up to leadership roles.
Well, that is so nice of you to say, but when you say that there are a lot of seats for women to fill now, it's good news for us. We exist in a good time. But some people still say in terms of, well, if you're looking at criticism, that while there are a lot of seats to fill, people are not ready or accepting women in leadership positions. Do you agree with that?
In my experience, it's a little bit of both. I feel like depending on, our own experiences, we try to tell ourselves some stories as well, depending on our experience. But I see a shift now where we don't have to fight as much or be as aggressive to get a seat at the table. There are opportunities for women and there's opportunities to demonstrate that leadership, right? So women need to give ourselves, we need to give ourselves permission to move up. I feel that's one obstacle we need to overcome.
Definitely, Aisha, I totally agree with you on that. Now, while I really want to talk about, rather continue this discussion, because one of the most common notions that was attached to this was women cannot be in leadership positions because of their emotions or, whatever, the indecisiveness for that matter. And this has been a debate for so long. It has even been a part of research studies, which now we know that those emotions actually are going to bring empathy to the table, which is always great. I want you to sort of let me know if you personally feel that way. Empathy, does it bring something to the table?
Absolutely. I think this has been a game changer, and I'm learning about this and kind of experimenting with it as we speak. And I think, over time, people consider soft skills to be not that important when it comes to, leadership. But I feel like empathy is definitely something very crucial and important. And it comes with the building the self resilience and self awareness that I feel women can bring to the table. And then they can actually provide those skills in that leadership role for that organization to function better. We all need that nonviolent communication and empathy based approach in all of our communications, be it in the technology sector or any other sector, I feel.
Definitely, I agree with you. And Aisha, I actually want to put a pin to this conversation for just a moment because today, ladies and gentlemen, also happens to be an extremely, extremely important day in the history of achievements, or rather accomplishments for Pakistan as well, ladies and gentlemen. The first ever, the youngest computer prodigy of Pakistan, Arfa Karim Randhawa, her death anniversary is being observed today. This was back in 2012 when she was just 16 years old. She succumbed to a cardiac arrest. Unfortunately, she's not with us anymore. But the legacy Arfa Karim Randhawa left behind is definitely going to be with us for the years to come, for decades to come. And I think because of such news or because of the presence of such legendary people, so many new directions or ways have been paved for the women of Pakistan. That time, while it was definitely a newer concept for women to be in computer sciences at all, Arfa Karim was doing wonders at such a young age. She represented Pakistan at various international forums and was also invited by Bill Gates, of course, to visit the Microsoft headquarters in the US. Arfa received the President's Pride of Performance Award in 2005. How amazing it is that she cleared the Microsoft exam at the age of 9, ladies and gentlemen. And since then, of course, she has definitely been an inspiration for a lot of women out there. Our heart and prayers go out to the family. And there is no day, definitely, that Pakistanis will not be celebrating Arfa Karim or the work she has done for Pakistan. Now, definitely coming back to still exploring women in leadership positions, especially in the role of technology. Aisha, if you're still online, you happen to be at a leadership position at Cisco. You're rather the owner and so many other feathers in your hat as well. First of all, you let me know what are some of the struggles or challenges you might feel at a daily basis. And then coming to your employees, are they compliant of the fact that you can be a leader and a woman at the same time?
The challenges, I think, are it's the same story for women in any field, be it at home or even if they're choosing to work. Women sometimes have to wear multiple roles. And I think juggling through those roles and growing and kind of evolving our journeys towards leadership, I think it's a journey and it's a struggle every day. But we kind of overcome those challenges and optimize our own processes and get better and operate differently to grow. As far as coworkers and employees are concerned, I feel like there's no pushback or anything when it comes to having a woman leader or a woman pioneer. I feel like we can accomplish a lot, and the way we operate kind of demonstrates that, right? So I think we have to learn and kind of come out of our own comfort zone in whatever we do and to challenge ourselves first and foremost to go and achieve the goals that we want to set for ourselves, right? So if we demonstrate that and hold ourselves accountable, then leadership comes easier because it's kind of like leading by example, I would say, and holding ourselves to account.
Absolutely. And that is so well articulated, to be honest, Aisha. You said all the right things as well. But now, whenever you are, and I'm not particularly talking about Cisco right now, all companies of, even institutions for that matter during the pandemic had to lay off some of their people, or some of them had to even completely shut down. What did something happen to you or your work? Was it altered or impacted at all? And was there a situation where you had to, sit your co-workers, employees down and sort of explain to them? Because that is something where empathy cannot come in at that moment. You are a boss, right? So how do you do
Well,
that?
yeah, there's both sides of the story. I feel like a lot of industries have been impacted very hard by the pandemic, and the way the business was impacted we never foresaw this coming. So empathy plays a big role in how we even deal with challenges. And just to clarify, like even with empathy, a lot of times it's misunderstood as just being kind or being nice. But in fact, it actually means to step out of our own biases and really like actively listening and communicating with that degree, right? And kind of walking in the other person's shoes at the same time and feeling what they're feeling. So in moments like these, where there's a lot of challenges and the world is going through unprecedented, times, empathy plays a big role. And I think there's been a lot of, news coverage and a lot of things in the media that we see where a lot of jobs were impacted, and the way that those employees who've had to kind of pick up, and find new roles or reskill themselves. I think this is not the end. This is just the beginning. I want to say, based on digital transformation, a lot of these jobs I feel are going to become very, irrelevant in the near future, because so much automation is happening in the industry. So we all need to take it up on ourselves to reinvent ourselves and continue to grow ourselves, continue to learn, so that we can stay relevant in the industry and find something that we're passionate about, and grow. I've seen a lot of people start their own businesses and switch from corporate to become an entrepreneur. So these are very good success stories that were birthed during the pandemic. So lots of good things came out of it too, and I hope everybody kind of takes that positive approach.
Definitely, I agree with you. And where you said, we need to reinvent ourselves, this is something that is so absolutely necessary, because in the next segment, if you will be watching, we'll definitely be talking about, psychological issues that might have stayed with us during the pandemic. But most of them, I realized, did sort of occur because a lot of people were feeling the need to reinvent themselves, because the old normal is gone and we're operating in a world that we're not used to. So Aisha, towards the end, I want you to sort of, in an inspirational way, because you have done it for yourself, so for all the people out there who might be looking for ways to do it, how do you think is it possible for someone to reinvent in this time and just, go with the where the world is headed now?
Yeah. I would just like to say that any experiences that we're having daily could be turned into a learning opportunity. For myself personally, I would like to say burnout was something that's a very negative, very difficult time to go through. But for me, it was also a time for me to assess my own self, and then figure out patterns where I was operating that I needed to break, and then reinvent myself. So difficult times and challenges are not fun when we're going through them, but I think we are all equipped as humans with the skills to make the most out of it and actually continue to grow, and have a growth mindset. And sometimes the experiences in life force us to do that. And, this is just Allah's way of helping us grow on our journey. So I'd like to say that don't think there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There definitely is. And find yourself support. We all, we cannot do this. We cannot handle things all by ourselves. We need community. We need support. We need friends. We need family. So this is where all of that really matters in this time.
Absolutely, Aisha. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for being so well informed and articulated, to be honest. You are definitely a beacon of hope and inspiration to a lot of women out there. Ladies and gentlemen, Well This Morning actually loves discovering such stories and then bringing them to you as well. You know what? When I was sort of choosing for my college subjects or what I was going to study in my university, it was so typical, to be honest. A wider system was just fighting through either pre-medical or pre-engineering. And these were the only two options things we had. And for all my girlfriends who chose pre-engineering, towards the end, whenever they had to choose for university, they were still confused again, because the degrees that they were going to opt for, material engineering, chemical engineering, whatnot, and they were brilliant women, all of them had, imagine a class of 40 would have just one girl with 39 boys studying the same thing. Not that it was a problem, but I think in a family system like Pakistan's, it was a problem for some. Some struggled with getting permission. Their parents would say, isn't it better you become a doctor and do something womanly or ladylike for that matter, or become a teacher? Now, alhamdulillah, things have changed. There are so many options for women, along with men, of course, to study various degrees of what they like. And moreover, I think the Internet of Things, or rather moving online, digitization of the education itself, is such a blessing that you don't even have to go for a university anymore. At the expense of your own bed, you can be learning all the things, whatever you want along with that as well. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we're heading to a very short break. When we come back, we're going to continue the discussion in a sort of a way, because it's such a global issue now. Whenever we talk about psychological issues and people going through anxiety, depression, people just finding it hard to manage their lives at this point. If you are feeling any of these things, let me tell you, you are not alone. Anyone and everyone around you is feeling the same way at one level or another. And it is because we're getting out of a pandemic, the second largest depression altogether. So if you are feeling any of these things, the next segment is for you. Together we are going to figure out how to deal with it. Stay tuned. Good morning. Welcome back to Well This Morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Shiza Hashmi. And in the first segment, if you weren't watching, let me recap it for you. I was in conversation with an amazing inspirational woman who happens to be that of tech, of course, and she was letting us know how she balances her life in, of course, in profession and her personal life as well. Now, one very interesting thing we spoke about in the first segment was how even being in a leadership position, you are able to, or you can actually bring empathy to the table. When we talk about empathy or kindness, I think we were also discussing that it has a sort of a weaker connotation to it, because whenever we talk about someone and say, oh my God, he's so nice or he's so kind, we're not always saying it in the best way. It does sort of, give you that connotation. But should it be that way? Not really. Empathy is a virtue, and I think it should be celebrated that way as well. People who are kind, people who are empathetic should definitely spread that energy around them, and people who are dealing with them should appreciate that as well. This is one thing I personally took out from the first segment, among other things too, but this is something which will stay with me. I endorse it for so many years now. For more than 3 years, I'm on this, show talking to you guys and asking you and rather sharing my stories with you as well. So I really hope and pray that maybe some little thing will leave an impact on you guys. And for all of those who actually went and grabbed their cup of chai or coffee during this break, I did too. So we are on the same page, yes. I hope you all are having a great breakfast as well, and especially in winter. The winter is the best. First of all, it's so pretty, but also because it has oranges. Malte. Oh my God, Pakistanis should actually, all of them, be in love with oranges, because we have Malte, we have Kinnu, we have Shakri for that matter, just so many. And I'm lately also learning the names, because now I get to buy my own grocery. Earlier, my mom used to do it. Now that I live on my own, I have to buy my own grocery, and I'm learning so many names, which makes me realize, Alhamdulillah, Pakistan is so blessed. While in terms of seasons as well, but we're an agrarian culture or a society, right? So we have so many brilliant fruits and vegetables for that matter, that if you go in the West, they even struggle to buy some. And the variety we have over here is definitely amazing, because then we get to export them as well and become the largest exporters in the region too. Actually, my team compiled a small informative report for all of you, ladies and gentlemen, about Pakistani oranges. Let's take a look at it and let's learn more about them.
Orange is a citrus fruit that people often love to eat in winter. Kinnu is one of the best sources of vitamins, especially vitamin C. Its juice is an important part of breakfast. It is one of the best sources of good quality food in the world. The nutrients in about half of a large orange, approximately 100 grams. Pakistan is the 6th largest producer of mandarin oranges in the world, with 2.1 million tons of annual cultivation. The citrus reticulata variety, known popularly as Kinnu, is indigenous to the part of world. According to one estimate, approximately 95% of all Kinnu in the world is grown in Pakistan. The soil and climatic conditions in Pakistan have given the Kinnu a very unique flavor, which distinguishes it from other comparable mandarins grown in the world. Winter in the plains of Punjab province of Pakistan provides an excellent growing environment for this fruit. More than 80% of the total Kinnu production in Pakistan is obtained from Sargodha, which is estimated at over 2 million tons annually and exported around the world. In 2020-2021, Pakistan exported approximately 460,000 tons of oranges, marking this as the highest ever volume during any season.
This was actually informative, yes, and very good to learn about as well. We're really proud to be owning all these, especially from Pakistan. I do remember this was probably 2 years back, and I was, well, somewhere in Europe, and someone came up to me who happened to be an Indian and asked for Pakistani oranges and their availability. And I was like, listen, aren't they supposed to be almost the same? I mean, if you're coming from India, aren't they supposed to taste the same? But apparently, Pakistani oranges specifically are really popular all around the world. That actually made me really happy. But you know what? Having the right kind of food or the right kind of nutrients definitely adds a lot to your health. And in terms of orange juice, because there was a time when a lot of people in Pakistan, even right now, were diagnosed with vitamin D deficiency. While we actually have a very hot shining sun over here in our sphere, because we're really near equator, but we don't have the exposure to direct sunlight, so we're often low on vitamin D as well, which compromises our health. And then eventually mental health as well. So now imagine we are existing in a time where there's a pandemic, where we're low on nutrients in terms of food as well. imagine what would happen to our health. It definitely does impact our mental health, right? And now a research said, it was published, I think, last month as well. A research said that in the past 2 years of the pandemic, the global mental health has declined by 47%. It's actually really easy to say, but can you imagine 47% of the entire population of the globe actually went bad with their mental health? That doesn't mean that all of the other people are not experiencing the similar things, but 49% more. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I want to talk about, because all of us are going through it. Every person I talk to is experiencing something bad in terms of either anxiety or depression, for that matter, for different reasons. It cannot necessarily be the same. Even toddlers, can you imagine, the babies which were born in the pandemic are called quarantine babies, are so socially anxious now. If they actually go into a gathering, they panic, they don't know how to react to people. Let's talk about this. And luckily, I've been joined by someone who is really, really apt to be talking about this. She happens to be a psychotherapist at one of the very renowned hospitals over here, Maroof International. She's none other than Zubia Zubair. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. Welcome to the show.
Walaikum assalam, and thank you for having me.
It's definitely my pleasure. So I really hope you sort of listened to our conversation in the first segment as well, and now this. First of all, on a personal level, now forget that you're a psychotherapist. As a human, did you feel like your mental health was declining in the pandemic?
Actually, I think, of course, I felt it, and I think a lot of us also felt it. And in terms of decline, I'll say, you know, we all went through different emotions. It could be depression, it could be frustration, it could be anxiety. So, you know, we are, human beings are social animals. And then they, all of a sudden, they were forced actually to stay at home.
Right.
So that caused a lot of issues, not only amongst the elderly, but also amongst teenagers, youngsters. And you saw how people were also protesting,
Yes.
because everybody needed to get out, and all the avenues were closed down, so much so, okay, you know, like a few countries went into severe lockdown for months.
Right.
So that affected a lot of our mental health. And a lot of my patients, clients during those times were actually suffering from depression, anxiety, social anxiety also.
Right,
You know, because gradually then you you start forgetting the norms of social behavior.
True. And you know what, while of course, when we discuss it, it does not seem that grave or severe.
Absolutely.
But imagine a person, now imagine an individual who might be going through all of this. Maybe they're smiling in front of you, you don't know what people's personal or silent battles are, but trust me, it's a struggle. Now, I want to take on all of these segments rather one by one.
Yeah.
Let's begin with adults, okay? And especially the ones who were working. If they had their jobs, well and good, I mean, of course, but still weren't going to offices. So there were two options, either work from home or either laid off.
Absolutely.
What happened to those adults? What was happening to their mental health?
So you see a lot of deterioration we saw during this whole like period of 3 years almost now. And the thing is, I mean, not just anxiety and depression, a lot of people turn towards substance abuse also, because you see, what is depression?
Yeah.
What is anxiety? How does it come out? It comes out through, you know, you start taking it inwards.
Okay.
So it's actually anxiety turned inwards is basically addiction and all these things.
Okay.
So a lot of people engaged in self-harm also. So the thing is, like most of us, actually, if you look at the history, most of us use the outside environment as a form of escape. Escape from our own realities.
True.
So that's what we are doing mostly, right? You know, don't stay at home, don't face the issues, just go out. So the pandemic has actually forced us to sit with our issues. And that's a very big thing, to sit with ourselves, basically.
And it got so scary for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And you know, sitting with yourself, I was actually listening to your first segment with Aisha, and she said something very interesting. She said, you know, like we need to look at our own selves, and that's actually what we were forced to do. So the only hurdle that stands in the way of success of any human being is we ourselves.
Okay.
So the minute we start focusing on our own health and our mental health, you see, this controls everything that happens down there.
And actually, this very statement is so underrated, to be honest.
Absolutely.
But yes, please carry on.
So, you know, I'll just give an example which I normally give to my clients also, that when you are traveling by air, so you see there's this demo that goes on that if the oxygen mask falls, you know, how to place it on your mouth and everything. And this is one very important thing. They say that before you put it on the person sitting next to you, whether it's your child, whether it's a parent or spouse, etc., put it on yourself. So if your oxygen is depleted, you cannot help anybody else. And you were just talking about empathy also. So what is empathy? Empathy starts, charity starts from home.
Right.
So empathy starts with yourself. Empathy means you are kind to yourself and in turn to others also.
Right.
Only then you can impart empathy, when you start being empathetic to yourself.
That is a very interesting anecdotal direction, actually, Ms. Zubia. While the concept of self-love is definitely newer on the charts, a lot of people are hopping onto it because of social media. It's a trend now.
Absolutely.
I absolutely like it. I'm there to advocate it. But it does make me think that not all of the things we see on social media are real. So the advocates of self-love, I'm not going to trust them. To be honest, it's going to happen for me in a different way. It's not going to happen for me in a way that XYZ influencer did it on Instagram or Facebook, right?
Absolutely.
I think all of us need to learn that things on social media are really not real. But then self-love or empathy to begin at your own self. While it is easy to say, it's such a hard concept.
It
And
is.
when we live in a collectivistic society like Pakistan's, the question of self is often frowned upon. So how do we deal with that?
So you see, when I talk about self-love and empathy, what is empathy? Empathy is that you step in somebody else's shoes and walk around in them for some time, right? So you can only do that and relate to that person's emotions and feelings if you feel those yourself. So if you're disconnected from your own self, you cannot impart empathy to anyone else. You must have noticed when you talk to people, some appear genuine and some don't.
Yeah, true. You
So-
catch vibes.
Absolutely. So these vibes, or whatever we may call them, they're very powerful. So if I am empathetic, the other person will likewise if a therapist is and is not also, the client can instantly pick it up like this.
Of course,
So,
yes.
so the thing is, it's very important to start, and self-love doesn't make you selfish. If it is making you selfish, you need to see there's something not right there.
Okay.
So yeah.
Interesting. Self-love does not make you selfish. If it is making you selfish, there's something wrong with it. Brilliant. But now, with adults, of course, this might not be the first time they're facing some kind of anxiety or
Absolutely.
depression. There might have been phases earlier in their life as well. They've all been teenagers, and we've all seen. So would you say comparatively for the newer generation, comparatively adults could have had it better or were dealing with it better? Now let's come to the teenagers. What all they know is either social media, either their school or universities, or hanging out with their friends, that's it. They're locked in a room with the parents or with their siblings that they don't want to see, to be honest. So what is happening to those brains?
So actually, you see, it's very interesting how the human mind works.
Yeah.
We are all such individual but beautiful creatures also.
I agree.
So when a teenager is forced to stay at home, kya hua? Like they got into all this gaming, and it's the new thing. Everybody has like a tablet or phone or something on their fingertips. Now the world is at our fingertips. So gaming addiction we saw. But along with that also, you see, it's very important for a child to socially interact, or a teenager for that matter, to socially interact with others. And when you force them to stay at home or be in a limited environment, that actually affects all their capabilities, their intelligence, their imagination, their everything. And that is what we need to, you see, there has to be a balance.
Right.
Yes, we need to learn to live with this pandemic now. But how? Like you said in the intro of your program, follow the SOPs. You don't need to stop living life, but you have to learn how to live with this. You see, human beings can actually they can adapt to any environment.
Right.
It takes time. Change is the most uncomfortable thing.
But it is so imperative sometimes.
Absolutely, and this time it has been forced on us. So stepping out of your comfort zone is very difficult. But that's the biggest, the first step is the hardest. When you take the first step, then you see how gradually you'll fall into space. And also I'd like to just mention over here that it's very important to ask for help. We are not taught to do
the
that.
stigma with it. So you
Absolutely.
tell me, Ms. Zubia, now that you work in, first of all, we're looking at Islamabad and then the,
Yes.
Maroof International. These are two. we're looking at people that are comparatively open to the idea of actually seeking therapy. But generally speaking, with Pakistan on a larger level as well, it's not an accepted concept. Do you struggle to fight with, sort of fight with your clients? It's okay, you really need this for yourself.
Actually, you are absolutely right. It's still a stigma in our society, which is very sad. You know, when we have a flu or when we have any other cough or any other ailment, we willingly go to a doctor. But when we don't, then for the mind, issues related to the mind, we're not willing to ask for help. And that's the saddest part. And we also say that, like if anybody is also asking for help, we actually discourage that, which is very sad.
True, true, true. And I actually want to take a moment to appreciate, rather, all the people who are supportive of their friends, their siblings, and in some cases their parents even. Because, when we talk about therapy, a person only agrees to get to therapy when he or she has crossed all the limits. And like you said, with any sort of physical ailment, we do seek a doctor. Only because we do not get to see our mental ailments. Is that why we don't go to see a doctor? I mean, imagine if it came out in CT scans. How scary would that be?
Absolutely. And I'd just like to quote an example of a client who recently visited me at Maroof around a month ago. And she had a physical disability, like her part of her face was like shivering. And when she came to me, I knew instantly it's because of her mental stress. She had so much anxiety and depression. I could actually feel it oozing
out.
out.
That would be fixed with the mental.
Yes. Because you see, look, everything in our body is controlled by the mind.
True.
So, like when we have our hands shivering, and I'm not saying everything is related to anxiety. It might be another issue also, but a lot of our problems are related to that.
Unfortunately, yes, that is true. But now also, I think we cannot forget that segment of our society. Which was children and women mostly. Domestic abuse was on the rise, ladies and gentlemen, in many different parts of the world, but especially in Pakistan. It was absolutely insane because you're locked in a house where, of course, you're frustrated to be with your family members, first of all, but because of the patriarchal or rather misogynistic culture of our society as well, the women and the children were bearing most of the brunt of the anger and frustration anyone was getting as well. Yesterday, I came across a video on Twitter of a woman filming, or rather going live on her social media. She locked herself in the room. The husband was beating her so bad, but imagine, I'm so happy she had the courage to do that. But after how many days or months she must have been facing that, right? Let's talk about that. People who had been or must have been unfortunately facing domestic abuse. We'll get to adults in a bit, but let's talk about children first. Children don't know if it's abuse or not. They think it's okay, my parents are hitting me, it's okay, it's my parents.
Absolutely.
So what would have happened to them, and how can they get out of it if they have now recognized that, okay, this was the cause of my anxiety?
It's I don't want to overwhelm you, but how would you feel if I said that any of our issues and most of our issues stem from childhood? So if you have a parent who is abusing you, you will grow up to have a lot of different issues in your life.
True.
And that can be...
The spectrum is so wide.
Absolutely. That can be like any kind of issue related to abandonment, related to abuse, related to even, a lot of not only depression, anxiety, but even addiction.
Right.
So, we need to be very careful with our children, and with the help of your program, I would like to say that please ask for help. Talk to somebody. That will really, it might be the light at the end of the tunnel that you need. And also in terms of children, please listen to them very carefully.
That is true. But you know what, Ms. Zubia, since we're almost going to wrap the show up in 5 minutes or so as well, but with children, I think to make them understand that these feelings are okay to have, but they should be reported, so you can,
Absolutely.
I don't know how or why that's not so common. Because when we talk about a child, he has more than two prominent figures in his life that he's looking up to. It's the teacher, it's the parents.
Absolutely.
If they don't have the parents, it's any sort of a guardian. In some cases, it's even their dadi or huppi or chacha for that matter that they're living with. But children do look up to someone.
Yes.
So for that, and if that very environment is not very helpful for them, I mean, how can someone make sure that they're helping the child?
Actually, if you have such a child and the primary caregivers are not their immediate parents, then I think you need to go and see how that child is being treated. Secondly, we need to create awareness also amongst children so that they know what is good, what is a good touch, what is a bad touch, what is good for them, what is not. But that creating that environment is also a challenge.
Okay.
And you know, a lot of, like I said, a lot of our issues stem from childhood.
True, true.
So protection, look, when we protect our children, we forget that we need to protect them from ourselves sometimes also.
Most of the times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you know, when we are a little bit more aware of who we are and what we're doing, then we can impart love and, you know, education and everything to our child more fully. When you are a full human being, only then you can.
And you know, this is something so important that you said, when you are a full human being, only then you can provide the best for the people around you. And if we're talking about children, for all of those who are parents out there watching my show, I want you to take this as a task. Even if you're living with your partner, it's even better. You guys can discuss it among yourselves. If you're living alone, it's all right. Talk to your friends, your family, your parents, or your siblings for that matter. But I want you to figure out if you, on a personal level, are struggling with any sort of anxiety or depression or, you know, mental illness for that matter. And there's no shame in it. If you have even a minor or smallest feeling that you are, you have to get it fixed, because anything you feel or anything or everything that you think is going to reflect on the child in your house. So please make sure that you don't bring the negativity in his life. Fix yourself first. Like Ms. Zubia also said, put your oxygen mask on first before you go on helping someone else as well. But be open to the idea that others may also be facing something bad. So please never, never be the negativity in their life. Just one question towards the end. You are a brilliant psychotherapist, by the way, Ms. Zubia.
Thank you.
So if anyone wants to book an appointment with you or see you, let us know where they can go and what to do.
Well, I'm at Maroof Hospital,
Yeah.
so they're welcome to get an appointment there.
Okay, so they can just directly book with the reception?
Yes.
All right. Do you also do online consultations?
Yes, I do, and especially when COVID started. Of course, there was this fear of being near someone.
Right.
So, you know, and the 6 feet, you know, distance and all that. So a lot of my clients preferred online because there was a fear. And, you know, like COVID also triggered a lot of our embedded fears.
True.
So a lot of stuff came out.
A lot of confusion.
Yeah.
No one knew where the world was
Yes,
headed. So I
absolutely.
think confusion actually sort of creates
Yes.
a massive haze in your brain
Yes.
as well.
And you know, I'd just like to say towards the end of your program that please ask for help and also start doing little things for yourself.
Such as?
Things that you like. They can be small, basic things. Don't starve yourself, and I mean emotionally here.
Okay, okay.
Don't keep repressing your emotions, and talk to the person that you might feel you have issues with. And if you feel you can't even do that, then talk to a third person
True, true.
who can probably help you.
Talking is very important,
Yes.
and I think we don't give it enough credit, but it definitely is. Thank you so much, Ms. Zubia Zubair, for being with us.
You're most
You were
welcome.
a delight
Thank
to
you.
talk to, of course, and I learned a lot, to be honest.
Thank
You're
you.
more than welcome anytime you want to come, of course, and we can maybe discover single of these items or topics next time as
Absolutely.
well. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you took something away from the show. I think for all of those watching right now, regardless of what age or gender you belong to, just take today to figure out something for your own self. Do something good for yourself. Do something small for yourself, like Ms. Zubia said. Maybe make something that you absolutely love eating, not for other people, but for yourself. Or go out and do something. See a friend that you love seeing. Call someone. It's definitely going to add a lot of positivity in your life, and that's what I hope for all of you. Till the next time, take care. I'll see you guys on Monday, inshallah, same time. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Remember us all in your prayers. I'm going to leave you with a very cute little trailer of a movie that I watched recently with my siblings, and it had a very grave message. Why don't you take a look at it? And if you like it, you can definitely watch it. It's called The Mitchells versus the Machines. Till the next time, I'm signing off. Take care. Good morning.